Good evening and welcome to DCPS Parent University. My name is Natalie Treadgold from the Family Engagement team, and I am going to kick us off this evening. We have a really great presentation from our special education folks around summer options and opportunities for families with children with disabilities. It's really great content, and I know we are all very much looking forward to summer. So I'm excited to introduce them in just a couple of minutes. Thanks for joining us, and apologies for last week when we had some technical difficulties and had to reschedule. So we appreciate your flexibility and understanding with that. So just a couple of housekeeping items before I turn it over to our experts. One is that there are subtitles available in various languages for tonight's presentation. So to turn those on, you want to use the gear icon in the bottom right corner of your screen, and then you'll select caption subtitles and choose your preferred language from the list available there. So this is a Teams live event. We do want to make it as interactive as possible, so we would love for you to share your questions in, sorry, my dog is making some noise back there. We would love for you to share your questions in the Q&A box, which is available. You'll see the little question mark. We have some folks on the back end here who are going to do their best to answer your questions. They may answer them privately or publish them depending on how personalized the response is. If you do prefer that your question stay private, just let us know as you type it, and we'll make sure to respond to that behind the scenes to protect your privacy. If other people are asking questions that you are also interested in, please use that thumbs up button to let us know that that's a really popular question, and we'll do our best to answer it. We do have a few breaks for questions built into the session, so keep them coming. We'll respond to as many in writing as we can, and we'll elevate a few to our presenters as well. A few agreements for our parent university. It's really important that this is a safe and positive space for our presenters, and also most importantly for all of our families. So we ask that folks stick to a couple of norms here. One is assuming everyone's best intentions, so assuming that all families are here because they care about their kid and want them to be successful. And assuming that our presenters are presenting, the best information that they have, and we're happy to follow up with folks if they feel like they didn't get the information that they needed tonight. Second is to go hard on ideas, not on people. Again, keeping it a positive and safe space for everyone. And finally, accepting non-closure. So like I said, we might not be able to answer every single question or speak to every single wondering that you have. We'll drop a bunch of email addresses into the chat at the end of the session. So you have opportunities to follow up either with our specialized instruction folks or with the parent university team to get that closure that you want. Just one more thing from me. So in addition to Parent University, the Family Engagement team is also hosting a series of Family Cornerstones events, which are for families to do together. They are really fun, really interactive, less content heavy, and more, fun and interactive, like I said, than our Parent University sessions. We have one on April 8th, which is this week, on financial literacy, brought to you by Operation Hope. We know that's a topic that we hear a lot from families as of interest, so we're excited about that. And then two more from Urban Adventure Squad. One is about environmental stewardship, and the other about community public art. And those are geared towards middle school students. There's a link here, which I will put in the chat in a moment, for folks to RSVP for Family Cornerstones. So we'd love to have you. So with all of that, I am going to turn it over to our presenters. Tonight we are joined by Corie Colgan, who is the Chief of Teaching and Learning at DCPS, and Regina Grimmett, who is the Interim Deputy Chief of Specialized Instruction. And Regina, I am going to kick it over to you to get into our session.
So much, Natalie. Thanks so much, Natalie. So first, thank you so much for being here this evening. I know you could be somewhere else, so we appreciate your time as we start our presentation. And so we'll go ahead and start with our next slide, which gives you an overview of our commitment. So first, today, before I forget, we actually have some experts in the background, as Natalie mentioned, from the Division of Specialized Instruction that are participating in this meeting to answer your questions. We have our wonderful, superb team, Tiffany Galloway, as well as Shirley Emile. And if you have any questions, please put those in the chat. And as Natalie mentioned, they will try to answer those questions for you. This slide really outlines, again, our commitment to our students and our families with students with disabilities. This is our third parent university this school year for our parents of students with disabilities. And so as with all our other sessions, we want to make sure that we are sharing information, resources, and information about the services that we offer in DCPS for our students with disabilities. And so in particular tonight, we want to share some of those programs that we have available for this particular summer. And so there are several in-person and virtual options for our students with disabilities this summer that we want to make sure you hear about. And so we invite you to contact any of the programs that are outlined in these slides or the points of contacts that you see. You also can actually send an email to the Division of Specialized Instruction's general email address, which we will add to the chat in tonight's meeting. And then we also want to make sure that our information that we share with you is helpful and that we connect you with the right programs to support your students. And so next we'll go on to our agenda for the night. All right, thank you, Natalie. And so here is our agenda. We're going to focus on these three particular areas in terms of summer programming options for students with disabilities. The first one is our extended school year, or ESY. The second one is summer school offerings, and our last one is our summer acceleration academies. And in the next slide, we're going to give you an overview of what is really new this particular summer. A lot has changed in a year, and DCPS has done a lot of work to actually offer some new opportunities for our families with students with disabilities. And this slide outlines our 4 key changes for summer 2021. The first one, as I mentioned, is that we're offering various programs and services, either in person or virtual for our families. While we're in the pandemic, DCPS recognizes that some of our families are comfortable coming in person and some are not. So we want to give those options and continue to give those options for our summer 2021. The second option includes our improvements we've made and new offerings we're offering across all our schools at DCPS, which is our school-based summer accelerated programs. All the schools in DCPS have done hard work in developing programs and offerings for all the students with and without disabilities. So in your home school, schools are actually developing and offering various programs, various enrichment opportunities for students. And so you'll learn more about that this evening. And the last 2 that are on this slide are more about our commitments, again, in terms of health and safety protocols, given the pandemic that we're in the nation, about building readiness, as well as our procedures that we do to help keep you all safe. And so on our next slide here, this gives a summary of some of our health and safety protocols. DCPS is currently in its term 3, and in our term 3, we also know that the students that are coming in building have access to PPE, they have smaller class sizes, as well as that we've adjusted our meal routines for breakfast and lunch to keep our families safe and our kids safe. We also train staff on appropriate safety protocols to use in our buildings. We continue to adjust our arrival and dismissal criteria during term 3. As we move towards summer, these type of protocols will continue to be in place for the summer 2021 for all our summer programming offerings. And our next slide, this is our building readiness and school preparedness. As you can see from this slide, DCPS continues to support and take care of our staff and students by using PPE. DCPS provides protective personal equipment and hygiene supplies to our students, to our staff, and all our buildings during term 3, and will continue to do so during the summer. We're participating in appropriate cleaning procedures in our buildings, as well as DCPS has spent a lot of resources and energy in improving the HVAC systems in all our buildings. All these building readiness procedures and supports will continue through summer 2021. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit more about the first item on the list, which is our extended school year program, or what we commonly call as ESY. So our ESY services are provided to eligible students well beyond our regular academic school year. Our services for ESY are specialized instruction, as well as related services that are provided during the summer break. And so those services are provided when there are concerns about regression and a critical skill during the summer break, or where there are concerns about a certain skill may be jeopardized in terms of losing that particular skill because of that summer break for our students. The eligibility for your child's ESY services are included as part of your child's IEP, or individual education program. That ESY plan has a narrower focus, so that actually when you look at your IEP, you'll see all the goals and skills and services that your school team is working on. But the ESY plan will only include a few of those goals and skills that are individualized for your child. The goal for ESY, again, is really to maintain those critical skills before and after that summer break. Each school year, the IEP team discusses eligibility. And so if your child was eligible, for example, for ESY for summer 2020, that doesn't mean they're automatically eligible for ESY services for 2021. Every school year, the team must determine eligibility for ESY for the new year. In collaboration with the parent, the IEP team will review the data for each area and skill that's listed on your child's IEP. So for example, if your child has an IEP with reading and math and occupational therapy, speech therapy, and behavioral support services, the school team will actually look at each area, bring data to the table to talk about your child's current performance, and discuss those particular services and skills and determine if there are any critical skills that may be impacted due to that summer break. So for example, they may talk about, will there be a regression of those skills, those critical skills, and or will it take your child a significant amount of time to relearn those skills when school returns in August? As the team continues to look at each skill and each area and each goal, keep in mind that a child is not required to be found eligible for all areas and skills in the IEP in order to be found eligible for ESY. So given that same example I mentioned before, let's say your child has several services on their IEP, but your child is eligible for ESY for reading, writing, and occupational therapy. That's appropriate. The child does not have to be found eligible for all areas to be qualified for ESY. As the team reviews each IEP, they determine which goals to address in the summer. Their new goals are not added to the IEP or to the ESY plan. Again, the goal is to work on those specific critical skills and to make sure your child can maintain those skills when they return for the beginning of the new year. This particular slide gives you an outline of the schedule and the programming plan for the summer. ESY will start July 12th and end on August 5th. And as you can see, it's 4 days per week at 4 hours per day. This particular summer, we're offering in-person learning as well as virtual options for our families. For those students that are eligible for in-person learning, transportation is available for the ESY sites. as well as breakfast and lunch will be offered at those ESY sites. If your child is going to an ESY program that's also located in a school that's offering another summer program, and that school has after school in place, then your ESY student can participate in those after school programs. But keep in mind that that transportation is actually aligned with the ESY hours. So transportation is provided for the morning as well as picking up right after lunch. On this next slide, it tells you what to expect if your child is eligible for ESY. So we're in April, so hopefully by this point, most of you all, in terms of IEP meetings, have been held to determine eligibility for ESY. If you have not heard from your school team about your child's eligibility for ESY, please contact your case manager or your special education teacher for your child. So this month in April, all special education case managers will contact families that are eligible for ESY and determine if the parent is interested in in-person learning or virtual options. In the month of May, our ESY team will reach out to each parent and notify them about the next steps for programming. We'll notify our in-person parents about their site location, as well as what offerings and additional information they need to know to prepare their child for ESY services. If a parent agrees to virtual instruction, those parents will receive additional information about the next steps for our July start date for ESY services. And then in June, the students that are eligible for transportation will be routed for their ESY site. DCPS partners and works with OSSI for transportation for ESY services. And so we will work with that team to make sure each child is routed appropriately for pickup to their ESY location. On this slide, we have an email address for you in case you have any questions for our ESY team. And that email address is dcps.esy@k12.dc.gov.
Thank you so much, Regina. We're going to pause here to see if folks have any questions. And while we wait to see if any questions come through the chat, I'll just raise one that came up on the registration form. Folks had a lot of questions about autism and if summer programming was suitable for students with autism. And so would love to hear just your advice for parents who might have students with autism and are looking for appropriate summer programs.
I think that's such a great question. A lot of families always ask. So I think the first response I would say is, as we think about the programming needs for students with autism, the first thing we want to make sure is that the IEP that your students have are actually appropriate. And so making sure that the needs of your child with autism, for example, have the appropriate services, instructions, and accommodation support on that IEP during the school year. And then one thing is ESY may be appropriate for students with autism. As I mentioned before, each of the goals, the services, and even the hours that we determine for ESY are individualized for each student. In our programs during ESY, we have experts that are teachers for our students with autism and communication deficits throughout the year. They'll work in the summertime. We have speech language pathologists that work in the summertime in our ESY programs, as well as occupational therapists and social workers. And those are always great. So the ESY programs are rich with experts that can meet the needs for children with autism. As well as, if you think of some of the students who may not be eligible for ESY, our summer offerings that Corey's going to talk about in the near future, in a few minutes. There's several summer programs that are appropriate for some of our students with autism. So for example, we have enrichment programs that are offered, and those programs are, some of our higher functioning students with autism are great ways to continue to allow kids to use their skills, executive functioning, their ability to collaborate with other people, to communicate, and to continue to work on math and reading, those essential skills for instruction. So those are some of the options that we have for students with autism in DC Public Schools for the summer 2021.
Thank you so much. I think that's really helpful and comprehensive information. Just one more question, and I know you touched on this briefly, and I know you can't speak to, you know, specific staffing at schools for ESY, but just more generally, kind of will the staff be folks who families are familiar with from the regular school year, or will there be additional staff brought in for ESY?
Sure. For ESY, we actually do bring in new staff members to provide those services and instruction during the summertime. If you think about students that are in person, we have around, I think it's 10 sites across the city. And so in those 10 sites, our ESY team does hire teachers, paraprofessionals, and therapists to work across those 10 sites. As well as in our virtual space, our parents more likely see a new teacher and therapist in the summer months. Where we can, we try to make sure in terms on the therapy side, we try to align where we can. We try to have providers that continue to work with the students that they had during the year, during the ESY period, as best as we can.
Thank you so much, Regina. So it seems like we don't have too many more questions coming through, so we're going to go ahead and move along. I think we're going to turn it over to Corie here. Is that right?
Yeah, we're turning over to Corie. I'm sorry. Thank you, Nat.
No problem.
All right. So thank you very much, team. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here with you tonight and appreciate everyone's tuning in tonight to learn more about our summer offerings. So as Regina mentioned, I'm going to talk about some of our centralized summer school programming and then eventually our summer acceleration academies. So let's dig in. On this slide, I'm going to tell you a little bit about virtual summer school. So the majority of our centrally run summer programs will be run virtually, and this is to provide an alternative option for families who may prefer a virtual setting and or may not be eligible or invited to their program at their home school. So our virtual summer school will run July 6th through August 6th. We have programs for K5 through 612. Generally, these run in the morning. There may be a few exceptions. And in the afternoon, we have opportunities for enrichment. So registration for these programs has already started, and you can find more information and the link to the registration website or on the website at dcps.dc.gov/summer. And you can see that address there on the slide. I'm going to give you a little more information about some of these particular programs. So if we go to the next slide, the first program I want to feature is K2 Springboard. So Springboard is a partner that we have worked with for a couple of years in the summertime. It's called Springboard Collaborative, and they are a literacy-focused learning program for our youngest learners. And while we have worked with them for a number of years, this last year, due to the pandemic, was the first time that we actually worked with them in a fully virtual program. And we were very pleased to find that even in a virtual setting, students who participated in the Springboard program made progress in their reading over the summer. So as I'm sure many of you are well aware, typically for most students across the whole country, you'll see a little bit of a slide in reading scores over the summer just because students are not in school all day, every day. And so to not only stop that slide or not see that slide, but to actually see gains being made over a 5-week summer program is really wonderful. And it really helps set the students up for success the following school year and really builds their confidence as they're going into the upcoming school year. So definitely recommend looking into Springboard. Of course, this is a free program. It's virtual. It's for students who have just completed kindergarten, first or second grade, and would really benefit from a little additional boost in literacy instruction, which we think this year really is probably even more important than ever before, knowing that virtual schooling has been a challenge for some of our youngest learners. One of the aspects of this program that families and students alike tend to love is they have some pretty incredible incentives for students who meet their goals. So the program works with the students and the families to set some goals in terms of number of pages read and participation in the family learning components. And when the families and students meet those goals, there's some great incentives and prizes that are given out, which the students have really appreciated. So it's an opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about how you can also support your students at home on comprehension and fluency of reading in particular. Okay, another great program to feature is what we call LSAP, our English Learner Summer Academic Program. So these programs, which are available for students in elementary school through high school, are geared for students who are newcomers and who are still developing their basic proficiency in the English language. So it's a really wonderful opportunity for students to practice their language skills, to learn more about English and how to apply it in a school setting, while also making friends and practicing their basic English language communication with teachers and supports and other peers. So we are offering LSAP this summer both in person or virtual. So families who are interested in this will have that opportunity to choose between in-person or virtual. It is important to note that students will be invited to participate if they qualify for this programming. All right. For our middle grade students, we have a new program this year to provide enrichment for students who may be curious about some of the career and technical education opportunities that they might have access to when they go into high school. And so we've actually have developed a partnership between our middle school summer programming and some of our high schools to offer some great enrichment opportunities in the fields of computer science, engineering, digital media, and mass media. So students can choose between some of those areas, and learn more about what a career in that area is like, what are some of the skills that they would develop if they were to study in that area. They can apply some of that learning in the summer programming, and it may help students make decisions about where they might be interested in going for high school if they're very interested in one of these areas. So these programs are available for students who are going into 8th grade and going into 7th grade. Priority will be given to students who are going into 8th grade as they have that critical decision to make in their 8th grade year about where they might want to apply for high schools. So this will be first come, first serve. And again, if you go to the website that we shared earlier, you can find the link to the registration for these programs. And before I jump into the Summer Acceleration Academies, I do want to note that we just featured a few of the programs available. There are other available programs too, so I'm just going to quickly mention a couple of them in case any of these meet the interests of you and your students. So we do have grades 3 through 5 virtual enrichment programming. And these courses are designed around different topics that students may have passion about, like learning about the field of medicine or animals and their habitats, water and waves. So they're engaging topics. There's one on theater. So students have an opportunity to choose a topic that interests them, and they will be engaged in hands-on and virtual learning to learn more about that topic while weaving in some literacy and numeracy skills as they do that. This is the program that we have typically offered in person as an enrichment program in DCPS, and we have translated that into a virtual enrichment program for grades 3 through 5 this summer. And then also we do have a number of middle school math opportunities available for students who are interested in math or accelerating their progress in math. And we have a range of high school options to help students who need to recoup credits. So if students need more credits to be on track for graduation, they are prioritized to be able to earn those credits during the summer. And that's a mixture of credit recovery for students who may have taken a class but not earned a passing grade, or there will be some original credit options available too. So for students to take a course that they've never taken before. So please check out the website and look at all the different options and see what might be a good fit for your student. And now I'm going to talk a little bit more about Summer Acceleration Academies. So these are brand new this year.